And this week, the Austin City Council is expected to discuss and vote on the proposed $6.3 billion budget and how much more Austinites will pay in property taxes. So today and tomorrow, we're hearing from elected officials about why they are for or against a tax rate election. This morning, we're starting with Austin City Council member Mark Duchen of District 10. Welcome to the show, Mark. We appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. The proposed $6.3 billion budget already includes a 3.5% property tax hike, right? And
that's right. That's the base.
That's the base. That 3.5.
That the state will let us go to.
There you go. All right. So that's any higher requires voter approval. That's why we're talking about this tax rate election coming up in November. You seem to be the only one against it, but then you also said, I can compromise. What is that about? Well,
I've also heard the mayor suggest that depending on how high it is, he might be against it too. So we heard that in the dais last week. But yeah, I think it's a function of where we go. Right now, though, my fear is that we haven't been as exhaustive as we could be about trying to cut all the non-essential spending, find all the opportunities for cost savings that would help us avoid the TRE and help us make sure that we're fixing what we're calling the structural deficit, which is a fancy way of saying that we're simply spending more than we're taking in.
But you said you would also be willing to raise it a little bit. How much more and why compromise if you're completely against it?
So I wanted to show them that for a modest, a 1 or 2% addition, you could still fix the structural deficit. And my hope was to bring them down, that would be an exercise to bring my colleagues down. I have not seen any sign that has happened, though. And so we're seeing proposals. I might have proposed a 1 or 2 cent increase. They're at 5 3/4, 6 3/4. City staff put out a recommendation on Saturday for 4.9 cents. So we'll see where they land. But right now, we're talking about a spending package, basically, that goes way beyond fixing the structural deficit and getting our finances in order.
And so your compromise would cover what? That raise would cover what?
So we did a lot of homework on this. We asked our constituents. We looked at city survey data. We realized virtually nobody, 14% of people said that they would be okay with more services and thus a tax hike across the city. In our district, that was about 4 or 5% of people. So virtually everybody, 95% of people in my community, didn't want to see taxes go up. But they did reflect what their priorities were, and that includes things like safety and utilities, and maybe wildfire prevention, flood mitigation, and park maintenance were probably the top 4 priorities that we saw. And so, again, in the scenario that I put together, I tried to account for those priorities, which I know that some of my colleagues, in fact, probably most of my colleagues, share those concerns also.
Sure. And District 10 is in Northwest Austin, for people who don't know. So wildfire mitigation is really huge for that area of the city. All right. And we talked about your colleagues. The highest a certain group of them want is a 6.75 cent increase. What don't you like about that proposal besides the fact that it's a huge number?
A lot of things. One is, again, I don't feel like we've done all of the work that we could have to cut the non-essential services. And when I think about that, I think, for instance, Houston under Democratic Mayor Whitmire did a performance audit and forensic audit across the city after he was elected. And they found about $122 million worth of efficiencies that they're currently in the process of implementing right now. And so when we're talking about not just things like hiring frequencies, but trying to find the right ratios and standards of maybe employees to supervisors and employees to HR staff, and figuring out kind of where have we gone askew that we could go correct or flatten organizations. Where could we find different departments that are doing the same thing and consolidate them? We're already doing some of that work, I know, in the technology space and the IT space, but we need to be figuring out how to do that work across the board in the city. And my central concern is that we haven't fully done that work.
Do you have any specifics to share with us? Like, what programs would you cut back on?
I'll give you a very easy example. There was a party that the city threw recently that was for all of 4 hours, but $75,000. They didn't do it internally. They hired outside people to help plan it. And I'm not sure what the outcomes are. We can't even get a really accurate attendance count for it. And so that's one of the things that we're really missing, that I've been pushing for and will continue to push for, is better programmatic budget data and outcome-driven data. It's not enough that we just say, hey, we we did 15,000 impressions online with our ad campaign, we've actually got to show people that we actually moved the needle somewhere. We got people to sign up for something or to respond to something, right? It's got to be outcome driven, and we don't have that data yet. The city manager, to his credit, has launched a new website called performance.austintexas.gov, which starts to include some of that information, but we're a long way from having a comprehensive list of outcome data. And so without that, it's very hard to make decisions about where to cut, what to look at, how to generate savings, what programs do we need to fix, and what do we need to expand. And that's one of my priorities also, is to make sure that going forward we're working with really good data.
All right, City Councilmember Mark Duchen, thank you so much for your time.